Good morning, and welcome to Tuesdays with the Pilgrim, as we continue reading Flying Against Time by Franklyn W. Dixon, with Chapter 7. Ted Scott roused himself with the feeling that a pile driver was pounding in him, that a cataract was roaring in his ears. As his scattered senses reassembled themselves, he realized that Jackson was shaking him and shouting at him. "What's the matter?" he murmured drowsily. "Thank goodness!" Jackson's voice seemed to come from a long distance away. "I was afraid you were gone. Wake up, Ted! For the love of Pete, wake up!" Ted straightened in the seat where he had slumped. He looked about him dazedly. "We're on the ground, are we?" he asked sleepily. "Yes, but you came in with an ace of a smashing," replied Jackson. "One of the wheels is broken. I never saw you come down that way before." "Lucky I got down at all," replied Ted, whose senses were now clearing. "I don't know what came over me, Jackson. A sort of deadly faintness. I thought I'd never make it." "Hadn't I better run and get a doctor?" asked Jackson anxiously. "No, don't do that. I don't want to make talk. There's more in this than meets the eye, Jackson. Must keep the whole matter quiet. Break out that medicine kit of mine and mix up a stiff dose of spirits of ammonia with water. I guess that will fix me all right." Jackson did as requested, and the draught did wonders in clearing Ted's dizzy brain. "Has anyone besides yourself noticed this, Jackson?" he asked. "No, the field happens to be clear. The afternoon bunch hasn't begun to come yet." "Good. Keep the whole thing absolutely quiet, Jackson. Just go about your work as though nothing had happened, and leave me just a little while to rest." "Just as you say," conceded Jackson reluctantly, "but I still wish you'd let me get a doctor, or at the very least let me see you home." "No," said Ted. "The folks would be seared to death. A few minutes' rest will fix me up." Jackson departed, and Ted, left alone, tried to pull himself together. What had caused this amazing thing? He was in the pink of condition, had never felt better in his life when he had started to go up that afternoon. Yet he had scarcely got into the skies before that queer feeling had begun to steal upon him. Could it have been a touch of acute indigestion? But that would have been accompanied with pain. He had not had any cramps. He'd eaten moderately at noon and taken his time. Was it anything he'd drunk? He had only had coffee prepared by Charity's own hand. No, these suppositions must be dismissed. Yet something was responsible. There could be no effect without a cause. Just what had done it? He cudgelled his brain, but could find no solution. There was a queer taste in his mouth. He thought at first that it was of the spirits of ammonia he had taken, but it was different from that, a sort of acrid, sickly sweet flavor that persisted. It was unpleasant, and to get rid of it he took out his package of chewing gum, hoping that a little nibbling of that would destroy the taste. As he lifted the gum to his lips, he was struck by the fact that it had the same queer odor that he was trying to drive away. He could not remember that the gum he was accustomed to had ever smelled that way before. He examined the wrapper closely. It seemed to be the usual one, but the flavor of the contents was undeniably different. He sat as rigid as a statue, staring at the package. From that same package he had taken the piece of gum that he was chewing when he had started on his trip. He remembered that he had got rid of that after the first few minutes, because it did not give him the satisfaction it usually did. Had that gum been doped? If so, by whom? Carefully, very carefully, he rewrapped the package and put it back in his pocket. As he did so, he felt a little round thing that he could not identify. He pulled it out of his pocket and found it to be a cigarette. A cigarette? And yet he never smoked. A moment's glance showed him that it was the same brand as the package he had picked up near the new building. The same package that was now reposing snugly in his desk at home. He leaned out of the cockpit and called to the mechanic. "I say, Jackson, come here a minute, will you?" Jackson came at once. "When those Gale fellows were here a little while ago, did you notice whether they were smoking?" asked Ted. The mechanic pondered for a moment. "I think so," he said slowly. They usually have a cigarette stuck in their faces. But no, he added, now that I come to think of it, only one of them, Duck, was really smoking. Greg had one in his hand, but he hadn't lighted it yet. What about it, anyway? Nothing, evaded Ted. I just wanted to know, that's all, Jackson. Sorry to have bothered you. He leaned back in his seat and tried to figure it out. He thought he saw it all clearly now. His coat had been hanging within easy reach of the pair. It would have been the simplest thing in the world, when Jackson's back was turned, for Greg to sidle up to the coat, abstract Ted's regular package of gum, and substitute the doctored one in its stead. Naturally, he would do this in haste, and the cigarette he had in his hand might have dropped in with the package. Ted's fists clenched, and his lips drew together in a straight line. When his dizziness had entirely passed away, and he felt more like himself again, he climbed out of the Browning and went into the works, where he spent the rest of his afternoon as usual looking after the construction of his new plane. He did not want any deviation from his usual habits that might attract a remark. That evening after supper he made his way to the office of Dr. Meredith, the family physician of the Brownings. To his regret, he learned that the doctor was out on a special case and might not be home until late. But Ted determined to wait. The business on which he had come could not be deferred. He wanted certainty instead of conjecture. It was nearly 11 o'clock when the doctor returned. He greeted Ted cordially, for there was no one in Bromville that the doctor had higher regard and admiration for than the young aviator. "Sorry not to have been here when you came, Ted," he said. "Have you been waiting long?" "Quite a while," replied Ted, "but I felt I had to see you." "Anything the matter at home?" asked the doctor quickly. "Eben? Charity? I know it isn't yourself, for you're the picture of health. If everybody was as confoundedly healthy as you, we doctors would starve to death," he went on, smiling. "No," replied Ted, smiling in return. "The folks are all right, and so am I. It isn't a medical case, but a possible crime that I want to talk to you about." The doctor's genial face became grave. "That sounds serious," he said. "Tell me what you mean." In return, Ted told him of the events of the afternoon and produced the package of gum. The doctor looked at it and smelled it. "Not so good," he pronounced. "I think I recognize the odor, but I'll take it to the laboratory and test it." It was 20 minutes before he returned. "As I suspected," he said soberly. "The gum had been doped. It's impregnated with a drug that produces unconsciousness in a few minutes. It's a wonder that you held out as long as you did against it. It was only the superb resistance of your healthy body that helped you." "Luck surely was with me," replied Ted. "Thank you, Doctor. I'll keep this package for possible evidence later." "This ought to mean state's prison for somebody," fumed the doctor. "Have you any suspicions as to the miscreant that did it?" "I have some suspicions," replied the young aviator, who had carefully avoided mentioning names. "But I don't want to do anybody any injustice. It may all come out sometime." "And in the meantime, you may be killed," stormed the doctor. "If you have any evidence at all, you ought to go right now to the district attorney and put the matter in his hands." "Not yet," objected Ted. "A moral certainty isn't legal proof, and I haven't any evidence yet that would be conclusive." "Well, take mighty good care of yourself anyway," counseled Dr. Meredith. "The fellow who did this thing wouldn't stop at anything. I shan't feel easy until he's locked up." And that's the end of Chapter 7. We'll continue next week with Chapter 8, A Lively Scalp. Until then, take care, stay safe,